Hi, I'm Steve and you're listening to Night Talker. Thank you for joining us again. Today we want to talk about a local topic. When I say local, not local to Perth, but local to Australia, which is Alice Springs, which we're calling the Deep Divide. Now, I don't know if you've been watching YouTube or any of the medias. ABC's covered it. It's about the only one, I think. The problems that's going on in Alice Springs with the alcohol and the Indigenous, and I was quite surprised actually. I saw the report yesterday from Rebal News.
Looking at those properties, it's heartbreaking. I wouldn't personally want to live there. Would you?
Oh, no way in hell. They are absolutely horrendous. I don't know how anyone could sleep in there. I mean, you've seen the amount of roaches and things like that and mice that'd be crawling on you all night. There is no way I would live or be able to sleep in those properties. And from the police side and civilian side here, this is why so many children are on the streets. There is not, I don't know any child that would want to spend time in that or use a toilet in that or bath in that sort of environment or just sleep in there on the floor with cockroaches and mice everywhere and rubbish, dirty nappies, smashed windows, intoxicated people, violence, sexual offences against children, women. I've been to jobs where 4-month-old and 7-month-old babies have been raped by grown men in their 30s and 40s in environments like that. But yeah, a child, if I was one of those children, I would not be in that environment. I would be on the street as well. You would not get me to spend a night in those properties.
Who Rebel are the only ones that have actually gone in and gone to the streets to talk to the people. ABC did it from a meeting that they held in Alice Springs, which they had all the local residents up in arms about what's going on. Now, with this episode, I have added the Rebel report on what's going on, as well as the ABC report, so you can see the difference and the different things that happen between both of them.
Why are you doing it for free? Why are you donating it?
Well, if it's a big hit, like when somebody has their door smashed in and their windows broken and it's thousands of dollars. And if we can drop a piece of concrete like that costs us $50 to make, well, it's hardly a comparison. It's got to be a community effort to pick us out of where we are now.
Well, the people we've spoken to are really grateful for your service, and good on you. Well done. Avi Mini for Rebel News in Alice Springs. The bollards, why are they here and why are they popping up around town?
Ram raids. So business has been ram raided. My business here got ram raided on the left-hand side of the shop there. A car pulled up over across the road. A heap of youths ran across. They tried to get into that door firstly, then tried to get into the second door. Then they've obviously signalled to the driver over here. He's just driven up in a stolen car and just driven straight in and then backed out. And then the kids have just gone in and taken about 30 or 40 drinks and a tray of chocolate cake, and off they went. While I was actually here with the police, another 4 or 5 ram raids got rang in that same morning.
The negligence that we are being provided by our government needs to stop.
Alice Springs is a town at the end of its tether.
We're going to have to rebuild it off our own back because no one else is stepping up to do it for us.
After months of ongoing violence and vandalism, locals are losing hope and patience.
To have the windows smashed and to have the car drive through and just do a ram raid for the sake of it. They can just disrespect us and do whatever they like, and there are no consequences.
But to give you a quick rundown, they're blaming the Indigenous for the same old thing that they did years ago. Was Aboriginals going to Alice Springs, being given housing. They destroy the housing and then they move on. And then they've got to go in, refix it. They give it to another mob of Indigenous. They do the same thing, and it's like just recycled over and over again. But now it's got to the situation, I mean, we've had this from the early 60s onwards, but now it's got to the situation where if the kids aren't staying at home, they're out on the streets, they're arming themselves, they've got machetes, they've got knives, there's been stabbings. And one of the biggest things in the report was that they're like 10 years old, these kids. They're not teenagers by any means, stretch of the imagination. They're kids. They're running around with machetes, their knives, they're stabbing people, they're ram raiding, they're stealing cars. It is just mayhem. Now, how these kids are just... The problem is, let's put it down to a nutshell. The parents are going out, getting drunk, not caring about what the kids are doing. Kids are going out, trying to just be normal, I guess, get away from home, and as you'll see in a video, why they want to get away from home. But then they get into trouble. They're stealing cars, they're ram raiding.
Like, it's an insane image when you drive around town and you're seeing bollards in front of businesses. It feels like something you'd see in South Africa for crime, or something you'd see in, I spent time serving in Israel to defense against terrorism, but this is the middle of Australia. If something doesn't change, do you think this is going to become the norm? Like, we're going to see this in front of every shop? Is that just the way to protect your business here? That's the only way to stay safe?
Yeah, it seems a lot of businesses put them up after the fact. There's a fair few now that have got them, but it's only after they get ram-raided. So it's just going to be interesting to see if there are more preventive measures. I believe I got a message yesterday. I think there's some large rocks being put out in front of the airport terminal out there. So even the airport's under threat. If you ever think in your wildest dreams you're going to have to put the size of these things over here in front of your business to protect the car coming into it. It's insanity, really. But ram raids aren't new. They're not a thing that started in the last few months. They've happened for years. Like, you'll get a spate of them, and then they'll go away. Then they come back. So, yeah, it's quite scary.
Australia deserves to know what's happening here in Alice Springs, and the heroes like Alan that are putting their money where their mouth is to protect their own community.
Stores, and that's probably for food, because their parents aren't feeding them because they're using all their money on alcohol. So they're ram raiding stores, stealing cars, and the police. One report, which I couldn't find, I had it but I couldn't find it, so it's not on the video. But one report was the police will stop the car full of these Indigenous children. The driver might be 10 to 15 years old. And all they can do is let them go. They can't arrest them because of their age. Now, I know they had many years ago in London, where there was a couple of people, kids killed by other kids. And those kids were arrested and charged as adults for murder. So maybe we might have to start looking at changing the law here, that if you do something that's against the law, you get arrested, because at the moment they're just, as I said, pull them over, find out they're 15 years old or 10 years old, and they've just got to let them go because they cannot charge them. And this is not something that's happened every now and then, it's a daily occurrence, so it's quite a big problem. And Rebal News went down there and spoke to both sides, Indigenous and Australian white people, and got their different views of what was going on with the situation.
Alcohol ban is just Monday, Tuesday, is that right?
No.
The takeaway ban?
No, it's a bit more than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so previously the outlets were open 7 days a week,
yeah,
with different hours.
Yeah.
So there was a restriction even on the opening hours.
Yeah.
So it was 2 till 9.
Yeah.
And now that's gone till 3 till 7 as well.
So on the days that it's allowed to be open.
Yeah.
So 2 days it's shut totally, and then the rest of the days it's a certain hour, restricted hours.
And again, but Saturdays have remained
shut or open.
Remained
open.
Yeah. And plus there's other stuff that'll be, I understand, is coming in.
Coming, yeah, like new restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It just like it's so confusing, because I would have thought an alcohol ban meant they're shut, but they're not.
Yeah, no, it's not permanent.
And as you can see, police IDing everyone who plans to purchase. Just trying to understand what the rules here are.
Exactly. There is a sign in there that actually got like basically there's like one like transaction per day and there's like a limit of what you can buy per like customer. Yeah. If you want more information, they will actually have it.
They legalised alcohol in the communities, but now they've put a ban on that again, which is good, but they should put a ban on alcohol in here in Alice Springs too, because it'll stop all the violence and stuff.
So just because I don't understand the ban, it's a bit confusing to me. I look at it. We went there. The bottle was shut for 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday it opens certain hours, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday it's fully open. There's restrictions on what you can buy, but I don't know who can possibly drink that much. Do you understand the logic behind it? I don't understand how it works.
Well, they've got the ban on there because Aboriginal people, they get drunk, they're fighting and that, and making rubbish and leaving rubbish everywhere, beer cans everywhere.
I understand that, but the ban is not really real. It's 2 days a week a ban, and then the rest of the time you can buy alcohol. You can buy a bottle of whiskey, 2 cartons of beer. You can buy plenty of alcohol every other day.
Yeah, but they're trying to minimise the alcohol consumption by Aboriginals, because you look around town, you see white fellas, they drink, but they drink in the clubs and that. Black fellas, they drink anywhere and everywhere, and once they're all drunk, that's when all the violence starts to happen and crime. And so, but no, I reckon they should make the ban all week.
I didn't write the names down. I should have. But it's in the video. In this video, asking the locals if they knew who these people were. And these are politicians that are meant to be there to help the Indigenous in Alice Springs. These people have never heard of them. You mentioned the name, no, who's that? So these politicians are even too afraid to go and have a situation in Alice Springs. One of the guys who they do the reporting to, or they do an interview with, says they'll go to Darwin because it's safer for them to go to Darwin than it is to go to Alice Springs. So it's almost, could say, it's laughable in a way. Rebels also did a piece on the bottle shop, which I didn't take a lot of that, didn't put a lot of that in, but they shut the stores 2 days a week, like Monday and Tuesday, for 2 days, shut. Then for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so forth, it's open. It's supposed to be like stopping them from getting alcohol. Then they're saying there's a limit on what alcohol they can get, but they can get a couple of bottles of bourbon, they can get a couple of cartons of beer a day. It's really, how do I explain it? It's like, let's say there's 3 of us or 4 of us, right? And I can go in and grab 2 cartons. Then he can go in and grab 2 cartons, and he can go in and grab 2 cartons, and then she can go in and grab 2 cartons. Now, you got 20 cartons, 20 cartons. And that's supposed to be stopping the alcohol problem of the sale of them abusing the alcohol. It doesn't work. If you're going to cut off the alcohol, you've got to cut off the alcohol. And it looks like that's a situation where it needs to happen. But then, of course, if you cut off, you can't. It becomes racism when you try to do that, because you cut it off for the Indigenous. You have to cut it off for the white man. Of course, then the white man will jump up and down, say, why has he been being addicted? Because of the Indigenous. So there then becomes a clash of they want them to stop serving them, but they don't want them to stop serving the whites. So it's a catch-22. We had the same thing when I lived up that way. I can't think of the town. It'll come to me. And we had the white pub. We had a pub. It was split in 2. We had the Aboriginal side and we had the white man side. But the Aboriginal could not pass through the white man side, but the white man was allowed to go through the Indigenous side. So there was a few fights. Almost had the name of it then. But same situation. They allowed them the same situation where they couldn't buy alcohol till after 4 o'clock. So after 4 o'clock, they'd go in there and loads, in their truckloads or bus loads or whatever loads, and go in one by one and just buy and buy and buy. And now they've got, a couple of $100 worth of alcohol, which brings us back to the same problem again. But is there an answer? Cut off all alcohol in the town. Just have to do it. People who, the next problem that comes with that is if you start. I mean, luckily Alice Springs don't like where I was. Alice Springs is miles, 200 k's I think, or 400 k's from anywhere. You'd have to Google that to see, but they've got to go a long way if they want to go to another town to get the alcohol. But it doesn't mean they won't. And that's your next problem. You can drive Alice, but they're just going to go to another town or get people from family and friends and relatives from another town to come and bring alcohol with them. So you really haven't fixed the problem unless you start policing the people coming into town, saying it's a dry town, you can't have any alcohol at all. As I said earlier, it's a tough one, and something has to happen because it's going to snap. The racism now is said to be, it's, as I said, a deep divide. It's peaking to almost a war between the two, and that's not good. So do they bring the army in and they take over and police the alcohol side of things? Do they round the kids up and put them into homes? Is that the answer as well? Get the kids off the street? The problem is I think if the class is what's it called? Martial law. That's a different law to common law, which means policing law. The military can turn around and take these kids off the street. They can do that. That's the military's format of how they do things. Police don't have that power. So maybe that's what they need to do, bring martial law to Alice Springs. But this is not a third world country. This is Australia. This is right smack centre in the middle of Australia happening. So what's the answer? Can you tell me what the answer is? What would you do? If I threw it to you and said, right now, I want you to sit down here, I want you to tell me what is the answer. What would you say? What would you come back with? I want you to do that. So, go on my Facebook and answer that. What would you do? How would you solve this? Or how do you think it should be resolved? Or should we just let them fight it out and let them sort it out themselves? They're in the middle of Australia. It's got nothing to do with us. We're way over here in the west. That's worse than saying, forget I said that, because that's a no-brainer. But what can be done to, one, help the kids? Because if you, and you'll see in this video, you'll get from this, if you're having, as a child, 10 to 15 to 16 years old, you're having to go home and you've got this, it's really hard. You've got a situation where you go home, you're going to either get to live in a smelly house full of rats and mice and cockroaches and all sorts of crap.
That, or bath in that sort of environment, or just sleep in there on the floor with cockroaches and mice everywhere and rubbish, dirty nappies, smashed windows, intoxicated people, violence, sexual offences against children, women. I've been to jobs where 4-month-old and 7-month-old babies have been raped by grown men in their 30s and 40s in environments like that. But yeah, a child If I was one of those children, I would not be in that environment. I would be on the street as well. You would not get me to spend a night in those properties. Mixed bag when you get them, but generally those sorts of things are always there. There's always bio cleaning requirements and mass damage to kitchens, stoves, windows, security screens. All the fly screens will have holes in them. They all require generally paints, and a lot of them new floors because they're ripped up or the tiles are smashed. And it's where we get into a lot of the issues with, I suppose, responsibility. If you or I were to smash something, or we would be prosecuted and then fined and then probably blacklisted from renting another unit. We can put on the banned tenancy sort of list. So it is a massive recycling sort of event which doesn't stop. And that's not every tenancy, but there's a lot of them that we, obviously with the frequency and the amount of houses that are done here, it's quite a big issue.
You're not getting fed, you're getting raped by others in the household or in that area. That's why they're not going home, because it's safer out on the street. The problem out on the street, they've got to survive, so they're becoming dangerous themselves. And a lot will say, they're just protecting themselves by having knives and machetes, but that'd be fine if they weren't going around stabbing people. That's not protection. That's assault. There's a difference. And they're just randomly attacking people, by the way. And these ramrods, well, it's just no go. If, let's say I was 10 or 12, and I said ahead to my mates, come on, let's go and steal a car, and we'll go and ramrod this shop, and we'll go and steal what we can. We get done here, and because we're white, I guarantee we would get taken to welfare, we would get arrested, we would go to a juvenile home, something would happen. But for some reason in Alice Springs, that's not happening. So, what's the answer? How do they fix what they're calling the deep divide? How do they do it without starting a war in Alice Springs, for one, between the whites and the Indigenous? How do they fix the alcohol problem that they're having in Alice Springs? Cut it all off altogether so that nobody can get alcohol at all? Maybe even if they did it for a 12-month dry Alice, and see if that can calm most of rallies to come from another town, bring them alcohol, and then we just go through the whole thing over and over again. Or do we put the police on the border, you want to call them border, put the police out there so that anybody coming in to Alice Springs, they're checked, no alcohol can come in, like the Sojourner, for your fruit fly and fruits situation. I think Alice Springs may have 2 roads in and out, I'm not sure the geometry of it, but I'm sure they could police that and stop alcohol from coming in. That's another way, but they're always going to get alcohol in no matter what you do. That bootlegging, even in the early 1600s, they still got alcohol in places. But I'm saying if they can't readily get it, it has to, by reality, stop what's going on in the situations these kids are in. And if these kids this is what I couldn't understand about the report as well, have these kids have the right to go to the police or welfare or whoever and say they're being sexually assaulted by their parents or whoever it is, uncles, aunties, whoever, are doing that? Surely these kids can do that, and then those adults can be arrested, removed from the home. So the kids, if that happened here, and you had a child living in and I'm sure it happens, but if that child goes to welfare or goes to the police and reports it, now a lot of people say, oh yeah, they don't want to go through the stigma of going to court, blah, 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 blah. But what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is to not go home, be on the streets, ramroads and things like that. So there is an answer, but what is that answer? And I think that's really what this video today is about. You being able to see in the video what Rebal News interviews are, what's been happening, how it's come about, and then you hear the report from the ABC, which, as I said, they just did one at their community hall because they won't go on the streets. They're probably too afraid to go out on the streets. They're mainstream media. They won't do anything they don't have to do, put themselves in danger. But Rebel did that. They went out and talked to people on the streets, which makes a big difference because then you're getting the people's story. When I think I wish I knew the name of it. I nearly had it then. No, it'll come to me. But when I was, even when I was in Gelton, and we had a divide between the whites and the blacks, we had, I was security at the time, we were security for a meeting that the Aboriginals had at a hall in Gelton. Now, that turned out to be, it was meant to be about the situation that's going on with the Aboriginals in the town, sort of the same sort of thing. But it turned out to be a rally for the Aboriginals to say, we have land rights. And that's what it became. It became a land right talk instead of a young people's problem solving situation. And the reason I'm bringing that up is on that video, one woman said with the ABC report that, and she was Indigenous, she said, we would like to sit down with them and talk to them without the white people being there. Well, once that happens and we prove this, all you do is you talk about land rights, or all they do is talk about land rights and the rights they have as Aboriginals, that their forefathers gave them, or you know, their great-grandparents passed on to them. And land, that's all it ends up being. It doesn't end up being about the situation of the alcohol problem, the kids problem, the rape problem. It doesn't become any of that because now they want to run the narrative of talking about land rights and what's right for theirs, and why are even there white people in Alice Springs because of tribal ownership, and it just becomes a real mess. So I thought I'd bring it up because that's what happens when you get like the and that's what it was in Dalton was all the Aboriginal elders. So there was really no white people in a sense there. It was probably more white security than as I said, it turned out to be more about land rights than it did about the issues. So that's where the problem is. And when this woman said, we're happy to sit down with you, that's when the bells went off in my head going, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to turn it away from the problem, which is the alcohol, the kids on the street, the parents, the rapes, the being unsafe, kids being unsafe at home, the fact that the conditions they've got to have when they're at home. So, I mean, I'm not an expert on the subject in any means, but I am passionate, and I also had a friend say that Warburton's much the same. I haven't really, I should Google that and find out what that's about. But again, mainstream media won't cover these stories, these local stories like this. I mean, ABC covered up, as I said, what's happening at that meeting, that's all they covered. And when Rebal News goes out there, people go, it's fake news, because it's not a real news. What they class is not a mainstream, I shouldn't say real, not a mainstream news broadcast. So therefore people may just say, it's not real. And that's where the problem lies, because then people...
This man the ABC spoke to outside.
The little black fuckers are going to start to get belted. If something doesn't come out of it, they're going to start getting flogged. And they won't come back. Because personally, myself, will take them out the scrub and leave them there.
Wouldn't that be called lynching?
I don't really give a shit what it's called. It'll solve the fucking problem, and I'm over it.
We don't want the racism side to start taking effect, which we know is happening. And Alice Springs is very racist. You know, we feel it every day.
It's just a total white supremacist fest in there, and I'll tell you what, the vibe, it was scary.
Why not talk about it, sit with us and invite us in, but don't bring in the crowd like they did today.
Getting the facts of what's going on. Not that a lot of people care what's going on in the middle of Australia. It's not affecting Perth, it's not affecting New South Wales, it's not affecting, and that's another statement that somebody states, the guy in the interview says, is we left it too late. We should have done something years ago. And ploughing money, this is where the government give me the shits, and I mean this really. They'll go to all these societies and they'll plunge millions and millions of dollars, thousands of dollars into these businesses, into these companies that are supposed to be there to help with these issues. As one guy says, he said if we had given them an outlet for the kids to go to, like to be able to have supervision and like PC, which I think they do have, Police and Citizens Youth Club in Darwin, but that's probably not getting used. But this is money that the government put out there, and it's just money. They're just spending money. Fix that problem. We'll fix the problem. We'll throw money at it. We'll throw money at it. The money's not working. So forget about the money side of things. But at the same time, don't forget about putting stuff there so that the kids have somewhere to be, can go there if they feel unsafe. And that's a good thing with the PCYC. My sister was like a coordinator type thing for the one in New South Wales, and they hand in hand with police, and troubled kids knew that they could go there and talk to counsellors there and spend time with other people there and be in a safe space, which is what, if you're 10 years old and you're out on the street, you need a safe space, because that's not a good place to be at any age. And at 10 years old, well, that's just asking for trouble, because you're going to get with other kids that are 10 years old, and you're going to get other kids with like 14, 15 years old, and you're going to perhaps work towards getting to bad ideas, stealing cars, doing stuff, because what else have you got?
Looking at those properties, it's heartbreaking. I wouldn't personally want to live there. Would you?
Oh, no way in hell. They are absolutely horrendous. I don't know how anyone could sleep in there. I mean, you've seen the amount of roaches and things like that and mice that'd be crawling on you all night. There is no way I would live or be able to sleep in those properties. And from the, I suppose, the police side and civilian side here, this is why so many children are on the streets. There is not, I don't know any child that would want to spend time in that, or use a toilet in that, or a bath in that sort of environment, or just sleep in there on the floor with cockroaches and mice everywhere and rubbish, dirty nappies, smashed windows. I want to do something about it.
You're there to pick it up.
Once again.
Clean it up.
Yep, the community's there to clean it up again. And the same old answer is just throw more money at it. But as you can see, this town is not, it's not a money problem. This is a family problem, an environment problem, an education problem. And we said it years ago, I mean, you know, talking to Gunner was pointless. The man was, there's so many words for him, but just an incompetent fool. If we had built a facility for these kids years ago, just somewhere safe, and even if it was full of beds, playstations, basketball courts, staff it with Indigenous people, that we're handing bulk money to certain organisations which don't do anything, and they've been here forever. I shouldn't say they don't do anything. They do stuff, but it's clearly not working. It's not effective. So there's no point throwing money at the same pools again. These kids, a lot of them would self-represent just to have somewhere to sleep, where they're safe, going to get some love, some interaction, and some food, and a shower and stuff like that. I mean, we see them here going into Kmart, and they just get changed in where the new clothes is and then run out the store with new clothes. I mean, they're not doing that to be arseholes. They want clothes. They need clean clothes. And you can't shower at home. You're not getting clean clothes at home. So these are not criminal elements or organised juvenile crime gangs. These are kids that need a family and need some love.
Survival.
Exactly. I can understand. When this first started with the issues with the kids, there was only small amounts of them on the streets, and that then was the signals going, hey, these kids don't want to be home. There is a reason why these kids don't want to be home. They weren't smashing things and breaking into things back then. It was just they were on the streets and they were hanging around. So they weren't on the streets to be criminals. They were on the streets because they didn't want to be home, and I don't blame them for that. I wouldn't want to be there either. But if we had have done something about this years ago, we would have gotten somewhere, I believe, but we didn't. We just let it go and let it go and let it go, and now it's become Australia's.
And then like going into the, we'll say, Big W, just for the sake of a store, they're going in there and they're changing because they can't shower. They can't go home and shower. They're too afraid. Or they just don't want to go back to that environment to go home and shower. So they're going into Big W, just stripping off and putting on new clothes and walking out. Well, as he says, they don't want to go around in dirty clothes for weeks on end. And so this is how they're doing it. It's wrong, yes. But at the same time, what if the government was doing more for them to help the situation instead of just hamstringing the police and saying, it's your problem, you sort it, but by the way, you can't touch them because they're underage. What do they expect them to do? What is the answer? And that's, I guess, what this video is about today. The deep divide, what's the answer? You're with Steve, you're on Night Talker, and we talk about anything and everything. And today we're talking about a very close issue in Australia, and that's the deep divide in Alice Springs, where the situation is not getting any better, and it's not going to get better if nothing is done. And this distance that the people who state they're there for the Indigenous people, and there's this problem in Canberra or wherever they are not doing their job. And at the end of the day, this is where the problem is. As we come back to the alcohol problem, why are they allowing them to get alcohol at all? We already answered that question, because we can't stop the Aboriginals from getting alcohol, if we don't stop the white people from getting alcohol, and the white people are not going to put up with we're in a dry city now, there's no alcohol, because there'll be an uproar from the whites. Not looking, because they don't want to, how do I explain this? They don't want to be suffering, as you put it, because of what's happening with the Aboriginals. But they don't want what's happening with the Aboriginals to affect their life, which is going to, in the sense of ramroads, stealing cars, breaking windows, breaking into houses. I guess it just goes from one to the other, escalates. And the white person says they're getting fed up of it. Well, what have you done? What are you doing in Alice Springs as a white person to help solve this problem? Are you just saying, oh, well, it's not my problem, it's up to the government? Are you saying, there's a guy at the moment, and it's on that video, he's giving people free bollards, big cement bollards, so they can place in front of their shop windows to stop cars being on the road. And he's doing that for free. Now he could be thinking, here's a money opportunity, you know, I could be charging these. He says it costs him $50 to make these cement blocks and probably deliver them. But he's doing it for free. Now he could turn around and say, well, $50 for the cement block, we'll deliver it, we'll put it in place, another $150, and thank you very much. He's made $300, $250, $300. He's not doing that. He's saying, I'll do this for free as a community service. So there are some people in there that are looking at how they can help the situation in a way where it's not impacting on the town expense. But there are others who are just sitting there going, oh, well, I can't do anything, nothing I can do. What can I do? It's up to the government to sort it. It's the police problem. It's just take them out, put them back in the bush. That's the attitude which isn't helping because it's not achieving anything.
Local business owner and long-term resident Garth Thompson convened the meeting.
We need to call out the government on what they're doing. They have the ability to fix these problems and move them on, but they choose not to.
Within just 20 minutes, the meeting took a turn.
Every single time you see a group of kids, whoever they are, during school time, ring the police, do a welfare check. Have a look at that clown over there in the brown and yellow shirt. Why don't you come up here, mate?
And even in the ABC report, the Aboriginal yells out. I think we don't know if it's an Aboriginal. We just hear a voice say "fuck off," and the guy said, oh, "Come up here and say this." Well, that's antagonising a riot, really, because what would have happened if that guy had gone up there and he was 6'4" and built like a Sherman tank? Would have been a fight on the stage, and then what happens? The whole place comes to an uproar because one person cannot ignore "fuck off, you idiot," without saying, "You come up here and say that," you know. And this is where the problem is. That they reckon the racism in Alice Springs is high, and I can see that because people are getting frustrated because the police are hamster. So, I'm sorry, but it's laughable at a situation that can be fixed, but because of the police being hamstrung, they can't do anything. Now, it's ridiculous that they cannot take a 10-year-old that's stolen a car in if they picked them up. For one, they should have them for vagrancy because you're going to have no money on them, and the law is that if you don't have any money on you, you're a vagrant. You have to have money on you or you can be arrested. There, bang, straight away. There's a reason to arrest them. Once they've got them, they can then put them in a system, a welfare system, because that's what it takes. But I'm not a bureaucrat, I'm not a police, I'm just a guy who's passionate about different stories. And when it comes to Australia, it does hit home because it's happening here. It's not happening in Iraq, it's not happening in South Africa or Europe or anywhere else. It's happening right here, in our own country, on our own footsteps, on our own doorsteps. Footsteps, on our own doorsteps. So maybe it's time we did get involved as Australian race. We share and have done since we arrived as convicts in God knows what year. We've cohabitated with the Aboriginals here, and we've had conflicts. We've never had wars with them. Well, maybe back in the day, but we've always sort of worked out some sort of way of fixing a problem. We can do that here, and that's by looking at the problem and saying what can be done, because the politicians are saying throw money at it, throw money at it, because to them money is going to fix it. Well, I'm sorry to say, it's proven time and time again, money doesn't fix everything. It's more of what's going on. Have a look at what's happening to these children. And they are children, they're 10 years old, they're 10 to 16 years old. They're not even old enough to be called an adult yet. So they're lost, they're being hurt. There was one sick part of that video where he says that 3 months old were being raped by 40-year-old people in that family. 3 months old, seriously? And you can't tell me that the police can't come in and do something about that? I'm sorry. No, that's bullshit. And that's just being fairly plain. That is bullshit. I should be in there, they should have the army in there, pulling those people out of there, putting them in jail. You're raping 3-month-old children. You're raping 10-year-old children. You're raping children. In fact, yeah, cut you off for life. But, okay, well that's, I got a bit deep there, so I got a bit passionate. But the question is, what can be done? Is there anything that can be done? And how do we fix this problem? Wooloona, that was the place I was trying to talk about. Wooloona, where we had the pub, which was Aboriginal side and white man side. And Wooloona had its own issues with alcohol, and I think they still probably do today. And the situation there was that they, as I said, they closed the takeaways to Aboriginals until 4 o'clock in the evening, and I think they were allowed a couple of bottles to take. They weren't allowed takeaways. It was how they did it. They did it so that they could drink a certain part of the day, but they weren't allowed to take away alcohol in that time. The only time they could take away alcohol was after 4 o'clock, and then they limit how many they could take. But as I said, you send 2 in, you send another 2 in, you send another 2 in, you send another 2 in. Before you know it, you've got enough to party for half the town, because Wooloona, believe me, it wasn't a big town, and most of the Indigenous didn't even live in the town. They lived on a little station just out of town a bit. So when they partied hard, you didn't really know about it unless they came back into the town and run amok, which sometimes they did. But again, it's an issue that everybody needs to be aware of. We need to know that so that we know what's going on. And as they say in the interview, if something had been done years ago with this problem, it wouldn't be a problem now. But they let it go, they let it go, they let it go. And here we are today. So the Great Divide. And it will be a great divide until we can find a solution. Till we can find a solution. But what is that solution? What is going to make the difference? What is going to keep them children safe? Because at the end of the day, I don't give a shit about them older ones, what they do, they can do whatever they like. But these children need love, they need attention, they need to know that somebody's there for them, because at the moment they're basically being abandoned. And that's why they're running foul, running amok, because there's no supervision. The police can't even supervise them and stop them doing what they're doing. So they're just going to keep doing it. If I go and steal a car and I sprang it into something and do multiple damage to somebody's house, and then the police come and go, oh no, he's underage, we can't do anything. What am I going to do? I'm just going to go and steal another car and do the same thing over and over and over. Because I think, well, they're not going to do anything about it, I'll do what I want. And that becomes the problem. And then now you've got not just one, you've got 2, you've got 3, you've got 4, you've got 10, you've got 20 of them now that are all underage, got no supervision, and they say, what are they going to do? They can't arrest us. They're not going to lock us up. They're just letting us go. So we'll go and do whatever we want. And that's where the biggest issue is. And that, my friends, is the problem. And until something dramatically happens, now I know somebody was stabbed something like about 30 times or something. I don't know what the story is with that. I haven't seen the report on that. But that should be sending off friggin' alarm bells anyway, when people are actually getting stabbed 30 odd times. Kids walking down the street with machetes. That should be sending off more alarm bells than we know what to do with. But it's not. They're just trying to say, she'll be right, mate. It'll go away. It always does. They'll have a bit of a moment and then it'll phase away. Kids will get bored. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The bored they get, the worse they get. So it's just the Great Divide, where I came from. I suppose, a great divide of something that's been happening for, like, this isn't yet. The guy said on that report, and you'll see it when you see it, this ram raid is nothing new. It's not something that's just happened, well, it has now, but it's been happening for years. But they can do it in spades. So it might happen 2 years ago and then nothing till now, and then nothing for another couple of years. The fact is, it's still happening. There's still kids on the street. There's still kids getting abused, raped, and just left to their own devices. Not good enough. Not good enough, government. And the government have got the power to do something. Make a bloody law, for God's sake. Make a law that says anybody who breaks the law, no matter what age, can be arrested. Then you work out what to do with that person once they're arrested. If you have the power to pick them up and take them to a police station, you now have the power to say, right, what do we do with this person? Right, they're underage, they go to welfare. You ring welfare, welfare comes in, and you sort out a home for them or something. Detention centre. People say detention centres don't work. I ran amok when I was a kid, and I got sent. I was about 14, and I got sent to a detention centre, and I was there for like 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks. They held it. It was supposed to be a few days, but something happened with the courts, and it ended up being 4 or 5 weeks. And I met some characters there, I'll tell you. But I mean, it didn't do anything major. It was just something minor. But because of the court system, I was there for 4 weeks. And it opened my eyes up to, especially at 14 years old, it opened my eyes up, because the next step from there was the big boys jail. And I was never going to the big boys jail. So it gave me a scare as well as a wake-up call of pull your head in, get your shit together, because you don't want to go to that next step. And this could be the same thing with these kids. Put them in build a detention centre, put these kids in it, and give them that shake up, that wake up call of, yeah, the next step's not a good step, you don't want to go there. And you'll find that probably a good percentage of them will pull their head in and go, okay, and then be happy to be put into a foster home or some sort of, at the end of the day, they're 10 years old. They just haven't had the passion, the love. And imagine having a son or a daughter, and she's 10 years old. And you probably, as a mother and a father, you probably argue with them, you fight over things. She hates your guts, or he hates your guts, or it's a common thing in families that they fight. But now imagine your little princess living on the street, stealing cars, ram raiding, stealing food, stealing clothes from shops too, because she's too afraid to go home, or she just can't, doesn't want to come home. How would you feel? How would that, if it was your child out on the street, how would it feel then? Because it's hard to say, it's only the Indigenous, or not my kid. But what if it was? Just for one second, think, what if it was your little princess or your boy, a 10-year-old son that was the one doing that? What would happen then? What would you want done to fix that problem? Because that's no difference. We're all here for each other. We're all human beings here to help each other, no matter the colour, no matter the race, no matter the creed. But the age, that's the biggest thing, the age. These are only kids. They haven't even had the opportunity to feel love, affection, happiness, joy. They've never had that. They've been brought up with a family where 95% of the time their parents are drunk, their other siblings are just abandon them. Family members are hurting them, raping them, abusing them. Put your kid in that position and then think, what would you do? What would you do? I'm Steve, you're on Night Talker, and I'll leave you with that, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.